Welcome to What Are You Noticing with Kish and Mitra. My co-host is Kish. She is a coach, relatefulness facilitator, and improv teacher.
My co-host is Mitra. He is a Dharma teacher, relatefulness facilitator, and coach. In this podcast, we're going to be covering a wide range of topics such as
relationships,
insights from coaching and facilitation,
spirituality,
living a good life,
Asian American life,
and what's happening for us on our spiritual journeys. Without any further ado, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi Kish.
Hey Mitra.
I'm coaching you. Cool. So let's do it. So I guess the first step I would suggest is setting up a nice presence anchor. So it could be something external, outside of yourself, or it could be inside. Anywhere that's like kind of neutral or pleasant to be with. Might be a beautiful object. Might be a part of your body.
Mm-hmm. I've identified one.
Nice. So maybe just taking a few breaths with that anchor. Letting your nervous systems be impacted. Yeah. How is it to be you right now?
I can tell there's a lot of emotions happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also different thoughts coming up.
Mm.
And there's a kind of anxious, franticness quality to the thoughts especially.
Right. There's a lot of feelings and some anxiousness, and fast pace. We touched like really briefly before we started about like the context of the calendar. Does that feel linked to the feelings? Cool.
Yeah, I think it's probably something even deeper than that, but the context that triggered it, I think, was the calendar.
You say more?
Yeah,
What's the...
I guess just
What's happening with the calendar, or what's precipitated?
Well, one thing that's true is that I'm trying to do a lot of things. I obviously don't work a normal full-time job. And so I do a bunch of other things with my time, like running my coaching business, facilitating, teaching improv, doing improv, my own practices, relationship, side projects, podcast. And over time, I've gotten busier and busier. And even a few weeks ago, I looked at my commitments and I decided to try to cut down on some things just to make my life easier. So I decided to take a break from teaching improv since I'm starting to work with a troupe. I'm like seeing my therapist every other week instead of every week, and rearranging some like calls and making sure I have time off. But then this morning, what happened was I tried to reschedule my commitments for this afternoon because my friend was in the hospital, and then also someone invited me to a last minute birthday thing tomorrow for her and her daughter, which I really want to go to, and I think that just kind of pushed me over the edge where I started feeling really stressed about my schedule.
Gotcha. Right. So it sounds like today there was sort of like these new surprises and sort of something felt like too much or overwhelming and went over the edge. How do you notice like that overwhelm or that over the edge feeling? Do you feel like somatically, or is it like a voice, or it's like an image or memory?
It's kind of hard for me to say how I'm noticing it. When I'm looking at different places, it seems to be there and then kind of change.
Right. Cool. So it's like hard to pin down as a direct, like a specific, concrete place. I wonder, does it feel okay to have these feelings? Like, is it? I wonder if you just like acknowledge to yourself, like, there's a part of me that feels overwhelmed, and I want to get to know that part, and it's okay. That also belongs right now.
It's hard to accept the overwhelm, actually.
What's the relationship to it? I mean, what do you notice in relationship to it?
I guess I want to, or like some part of me wants to keep the overwhelm contained. That part really doesn't want to feel overwhelmed. It's like there's so many things that I want to do.
Yeah.
I guess there's this sense that I can make more time, which doesn't make sense.
Well, we can also just welcome this other part. It's like the container. It's trying to make more time. So they're conscious of all the things you're doing. Maybe just allow and accept. Invite in the one that's containing the overwhelm. Does it feel okay to be with this container without needing to change it?
It's weird because when I try to be with the container, then I can really feel the overwhelm more.
Totally. Yeah, how do you notice, how does that amplification, how does that show up?
There's a lot of energy in my belly, not in a pleasant way. It feels like a volcano, not in a spicy way.
It's like a lot. Yeah, well, maybe just like acknowledging and mirroring back and appreciating the container for like, seems like they trust you more to hold the overwhelmed volcano as you lean in that direction. And you could also make a request to the volcano of like, I want to get to know you, but would you be willing to like reduce the intensity just a little bit?
Mhm. Now I feel like I'm in this part of my experience that feels kind of like more like muddy and it just went away.
Interesting. How was the volcano feel
Yeah.
in the belly?
I can't feel it anymore. There's like some pressure in my belly, but that volcano feeling is gone.
How is the pressure feel like small or big or easy to be with or hard?
It feels pretty small. It's not hard to be with, but it's hard to stay with it because it does feel like it comes and goes strangely.
Right. It's really good noticing, yeah. It's small. Seems like it's appearing and disappearing. What else are you noticing? Like, how's it feel the rest of your body, or any other things coming up in your awareness?
There's some tightness in my arms. It feels kind of like when I was younger, sometimes when I would be sick with a fever or something, I would get sleep paralysis. And it feels kind of like that, like arms like stuck and like tense.
Stuck arms.
Makes me want to move. And then I guess I feel kind of lost because things keep changing in my inner experience, and I think that makes me feel hopeless.
Yeah, my sense would be maybe taking a few breaths and letting your body move or wiggle, and even setting up contact with that original anchor, maybe. Since maybe you're kind of going into more subtle layers here. I get curious about that sort of, I think you said something about like feeling lost or hopeless. And does it feel okay to invite that in and just be with that? Really just reflect back to the part of you, like I really get how lost you feel and how hopeless it might feel.
One thing that's coming up for me is there's this confusion. Like I've basically tried to be super deliberate with what I spend my time doing, and everything on my schedule. I mean, I'm not gonna check my schedule, but like basically everything on my schedule is something that I want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this confusion about like how come even though I want to be doing everything, I still feel dread when I think about like next week or next month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like there's some confusion. Like a part of you doesn't. It's feeling dread of all the things on your calendar, and there's another part of you that's confused, like everything's really good here, and why would we feel dread? So maybe just like identifying those as different parts of you and just letting it be okay that they both exist right now. Sounds like the dread one is the more confusing one, or the less familiar one.
I do feel like kind of like a second arrow kind of thing of I shouldn't be feeling dread. It means I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, it sounds like there's this other concerned part that's maybe judging the dread as not okay and it's a sign of something problematic. Yeah. So maybe just acknowledging that concerned part, like I know you want to help and you're concerned about the dread, and maybe asking that part if it's willing to step back so that we can understand the dread better and learn what wisdom it's holding or why it feels dreadful. Just making sure if you get an intuitive yes, or if there's more it wants to say or share.
I think it's like happy to step back a little.
Cool. Yeah, so without any no expectation or goal of needing to solve this or fix this, but just being curious, wanting to know the truth of what is this dread, and wanting to be more familiar with it. Do you notice it showing up in a certain place in your awareness or your body, or images or voices?
Experientially, it feels like there's a not enough space feeling in my heart. And then I just get these different images of me kind of running around frantically and being exasperated and freaking out in a kind of cartoony way. And then there's just this more guttural yell in there as well.
Mm. 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 You know, maybe just acknowledging and like appreciating this hurt part of you, this dread part of you, like for sharing and giving these images and yeah, I really get how anxious and like overwhelming this is. Sounds like there's a lot of energy. Yeah, wants to be expressed, that's cool too. And if it's just a noticing, that's also cool. Maybe asking the dread, like, what else do you want me to know? Or like, what else do you need? Or
I'm getting this image of like when like a magician has a box that their assistant gets in, and then they stick the swords or wooden poles or whatever in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's fine, you know, it's just an illusion, but I feel like that dread part feels like it's in a box and there's not enough space, and it just like wants those like swords or whatever removed, so there's more like room to just expand and
Totally. Yeah, so this dread part's like giving you these really helpful images of the magician box, like getting more and more swords poked in there. Again, this question of like this space that doesn't not have space. I wonder, maybe just taking a few breaths, maybe slightly deeper breaths, and just meeting that not enough space with your breath energy, and letting them know you feel it. And it's like, yeah, I get it. You feel like there's not enough space. Feels like there's too much.
I'm starting to get like a little bit of a headache, like here.
Interesting. Yeah, so you can always, it feels like it's like too much to me, you can always kind of like move your body a little bit. You can always pendulate back to the object, anchor. Maybe the energy is getting a little bit too high.
Yeah, I think there's something that's really difficult for me to feel. Either the dread or my reaction to the dread. And I just really like don't want to feel this way, and I just keep having thoughts of different solutions.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's like a part of you that's like, that's not safe, or it's not okay, or it's not good to go there. Trying to throw up different solutions. Wonder if you ask the part that's like trying to give all these different solutions, like, what are you afraid I'll feel if we do go there, or what will happen?
This is kind of strange. That part's really, it's giving me the image of like a dark room, and that part really doesn't want to, I think that part's really afraid of sinking into some sort of depressed state where I don't want to do anything and I'm kind of just totally sapped.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, I feel a lot of appreciation for that part of you. It's like, yeah, we don't want to go in that dark room. We might just lose all of our energy and not want to do anything. That danger feels worse than what this is. Yeah, so maybe just like releasing any, like, it's like no expectation that we need to go into the room or anything, and just being with that concerned part and just remembering to maybe take a little bit deeper breaths. Can look at the beautiful objects, the anchors we have. Really appreciating, like, I really get that you're trying to protect me from being disabled. Just noticing what the impact is, and does it feel safer or does it get more dangerous?
Things are feeling more crisp in the visual field. And around the edge of my experience, there's like this fear or possibility of being overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you have like really good protectors that are like really holding the boundary of the overwhelm at bay. I wonder if you ask those protectors, like, what's it like for them right now? What are they thinking or feeling?
I think they feel rigid. Like they feel sturdy in doing their job, but there's also this quality of tiredness.
Right. Like rigid and sturdy, but also tired. I wonder if you just kind of express like appreciation and gratitude towards them, of like, I get how tired you are and thank you for helping me not be overwhelmed.
I think that they can make me more overwhelmed sometimes.
Sure.
Like in trying to kind of distract me from the overwhelm, they can create more things for me to be overwhelmed about.
Yeah, I mean, no one does their job perfectly, so that makes sense. But mostly I just want to make sure that those protectors feel like appreciated and they feel that they don't feel like pushed aside or forced through or something. You feel the contact with those protectors? Do they show up as an image, or still at the edge of your visual field? Or?
They feel like the image that I've been getting is they're like knights.
Nice. Yeah, I imagine these knights have been helping you for a long time and got you through a lot of challenges and maybe causes issues sometimes, but they've been very loyal and doing their best to protect you. And
yeah.
what's it like if you just kind of empathize and appreciate them?
It's like again, it's like feels like on the verge of overwhelm, just to really notice. There's just a sense of how much they've done for me and for how long.
Yeah. As you appreciate them, sort of like some of the underlying like remembrance of pain and struggle comes through. Yeah, so we're just taking a few beats and just being with our breath and just letting our bodies feel the heartache and the tiredness.
I'm thinking about how, probably not when I was super young, but when I was pretty young, definitely when I was in high school, I was really just like managing my own schedule. And there wasn't ever a period where I was really bad at it. Like my partner's really bad with calendars. And it's hard for me to understand. But I'm just remembering that, like, that's always just been on for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like, sounds like as you're with these protectors, they're giving you these memories of like, oh yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. There's like even a beautiful quality to it of like being super competent and scheduling and stuff, but it's also like a fatigue component to it.
Yeah.
You're just like reflecting, mirroring back to them, like I really get how helpful you've been, and also how long it's been. Maybe just asking them like, how does it feel to be here with me right now? So like now, just being together.
There's this, they can't quite tell if I need their help or if they can take a break.
Right. Sounds like they're kind of like open to it, but they're not sure. Right. Do you have a sense of like what do you want?
I think I know why they're not sure if they can take a break or not. I think that's because there's different things that I want to do that I don't want to say no to. And then I try to fit it into my schedule. And I think I'm unclear about I think overall what I want is I want a schedule with enough room so that I can feel really good about if I need to choose to spend more time with the things that I really care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like if something happened to a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be the case that I can like reschedule or cancel things and like not feel bad about doing the things that I care about.
Yeah. Maybe we can start circling to sort of more of a debrief kind of thing here. I'm hearing that last share, like part of it's like how much stuff is on your calendar, but also it's kind of like how, like the relationship to those things and how they get added. It's maybe more of the crux. It's like, do I add things before fully checking if there's a clear yes, or like
Yeah.
I also hear this other element of like I want to know there's flexibility with the things I am booking, or which ones are flexible.
Yeah, I guess I want to start being able to act in a way that I can really trust myself, that like I'm gonna act in a way that's gonna be really loving to the part of me that gets overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder like before adding new things to your calendar, like checking in with that overwhelmed part.
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder if there's something in like the relation, like I know for me this is a big thing I've been working on, is like counting myself at least equal to other people with like events and stuff, and it being okay to like cancel or change or even say no, or make requests, so like, can it be this time instead?
Yeah. I think with certain things, like I mentioned I'm in an improv troupe now, and I'm also kind of in another improv troupe with a couple of my former classmates, and it just feels like, well, I'm not available almost every day of the week. And I could do this day, and it requires me to not go to this other thing. But I feel like if I want to do this troupe, which I do, but I don't know if I really have time for, then like I have to make this compromise.
Right. Yeah, sounds like it's a question like clarifying your desire and like your resources.
Yeah. And it sucks because when I get overwhelmed, then I really have to spend time to take care of myself, which I can't do if my schedule is so packed.
Yeah. I wonder about maybe just like finding some way to do like maybe smaller, faster check-ins with the overwhelms and the guards and everything. And could even be like a minute.
Yeah.
And maybe things won't pile up as much. Anything else you're noticing or seeing from this this different vantage point? You want to remember or bookmark?
One thing I'm seeing now is that it's easier for me to go into hopefulness around, oh, well, when this commitment ends, then maybe I'll feel so much better. But I think it's maybe part of getting more experience and being more mature is realizing that things are always going to keep coming up. And I think what's most loving isn't booking my schedule to the max capacity that I can handle and like feel like that I still have enough time for rest, but probably booking to less than the max capacity because things are going to always come up.
You're right. Building more slack in your system.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think it's important to check in with the overwhelmed part. And I think also just seeing the part that is dreading as probably an indication that there's overwhelm.
Yeah, maybe to close then, just sort of taking a moment to just like take a few breaths and just really express like appreciation and gratitude to all of like the images and parts that came up, and letting them know like this isn't like the end, and might do like a minute or 2 minute check-in later today or tomorrow. Wanting to build good relationships and get the wisdom and information from them. And the protector parts that are been serving you for so long and helping you, and appreciating them for their work and also understanding how tired they are. How's that? Good landing spot?
Yeah, thanks, Mitra.
No doubt. Thanks for sharing.
What?
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for being so compassionate.
That's easy to do.
Easy for you. Any reflections that you want to share about the coaching?
I don't know. It's kind of a side tangent, but I'm like trying to develop a course right now on how to cry, and so part of me was to interview you and get more tips on how you're doing it. But
I think I have very wet eyes. Like when I yawn, I cry. My eyes are just really wet.
Just get excess moisture.
But I'm happy to talk to you about it. I think there's ways not to cry.
Right. There's also bad crying. But, yeah, no, I was really touched at how quickly you kind of felt the overwhelm and stuff and the rich imagery. And I think there's like a push and pull around like entering the dark room. But I think after a while it became really clear of like, actually, I think just hanging out with their protectors makes more sense, and letting them kind of give you information and wisdom, and it was beautiful. Like how the more closer you got to them, the more like the hurt underneath, and the memory of the hurt feelings came up more. So.
Yeah.
Very like non-coercive way of unfolding the experience.
Yeah. Is the way that you work with people like kind of a mix between IFS and the Aletheia unfolding style?
Yeah, I mean Aletheia has sort of parts work built into it as like sort of like the top layer. And then it goes all the
I
way.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so they have a really rich parts work, and in level 1 they spend the majority of the time actually in parts work. And then the bottom layers like non-duality they don't cover until like much later classes. So yeah, it's all kind of like integrated, built in together. The second level is kind of like more like focusing, and then there's like what they call presence as the third layer, which is kind of like samadhi or like kind of like Brahma Viharas or something. It's kind of like
Interesting.
yeah, they're like the states of being that our protector parts are trying to do, and then those states of being can actually do fully. So, compassion and love and willpower and stuff like that. But a lot of it's about just meeting the experience where it's at and letting it unfold naturally.
One other thing that this is making me think about is I didn't quite mention this at the beginning, but I'm like starting to see my current therapist every other week now, and I want to. One of the things that I'm working on is finding a therapist to work with specifically on trauma, because I think a lot of the things that have been coming up for me are more like older, younger, not as many words, more subtle.
Yeah, I find it's really helpful to have someone else to kind of hold the adult presence kind of position, and then I know for me when I go to those spaces, it's like you said, it's like this overwhelming, confused, pre-verbal place, and I can't do like CBT or like I can't use a lot of mental stuff. It's just like the sheer terror, or sheer confusion, and then it really helps to have someone else that can just be like the regulated, compassionate nervous system that feel safe around and don't have to do much with. And so yeah, for sure. It reminds me in like circling. I was in a circle a few weeks ago and someone was saying like how they felt frozen, and then someone else was like, I just want to shake you, and I was like, I don't think that's the move. So yeah.
Yeah. I think as coaches it's so important how we relate to those parts of ourselves. Like when we're feeling frozen, I think a lot of times people do to others what they do to themselves.
Totally.
Not always, but
Right.
yeah, I think it's just so important to like get to a place of, which I think, I just feel like you're so good at responding with compassion.
It's a lot easier when it's someone outside myself. So yeah. Yeah. It's easier that way. But I definitely work with other people and my therapist to go to those hard places myself, and I can use that modeling and coaching to start my like protector parts and managers and everything from taking over. A lot of it's also like with you and others, it's like it's so counterintuitive, but it's like I have so much trust and faith in you, and so it's just like, oh, I know if she just stays here and breathes, it's probably going to unfold beautifully. But then it's a way different story. Like I'm in the thick of it, and it's really, yeah, it's hard to remember that for myself sometimes.
That like it's gonna change.
Yeah, that I can. There's something on the other side. It feels like one of like the fundamental breaks of trauma is like, at least with me, it's like belief like the universe isn't friendly or like it's not safe. And so it's really easy when working with clients or friends, like feeling the unconditional positive regard and faith and trust in their ability, and then also a lot of this work I find is getting to that place of like when I can hold myself from that place of presence and compassion, then that's like when the healing happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I feel like that's a notable exception in my experience as well, where I can treat other people with a lot of compassion and still learning how to really be able to let that in myself.
Totally. Yeah, and I imagine it's like a always shifting goalpost. So it's like I've done it a lot, but then there's just like deeper wells that appear, and then it's helpful to have other people to help me with these deeper spots.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it's helping me see that with my scheduling stuff. I think, like you said, I'm also so much better now at asking to reschedule or needing to cancel certain things. But I think that now I'm shifting my attention to look more at, can I say no to certain things?
Yeah, I don't know if this is totally true for you, but I imagine in the past you had a lot of things on your calendar that you didn't necessarily fully want to do, but felt like you should or were told to do, and now you've like filtered that out. So now everything you're attracting is what you want to do, but still now like too many things I want to do.
Yeah, and I can be even more discerning of what do I really want to do.
Right.
And I think it, like you were saying, it is already unfolding.
Yeah, and also that you made the progression from like doing things you don't want to do to doing things that you do want to do, but now it's like another developmental challenge now.
Yeah.
It's almost like an bit of grieving of like, oh, I know I can't do everything I want to do. Pick the best things.
Yeah, and like one of the best things is giving myself enough time to really feel resourced.
Right, totally.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Mitra.
Yeah, a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. This podcast was executive produced by Mitra and Kish, was written by Kish and Mitra, and performed by Mitra and Kish. Like, review, and subscribe wherever your podcasts are found.
For more information about Mitra, you can visit his website at peterxpark.com. And for more information about me, you can visit my website at kishandyou.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.